Hello, Daniel. Thanks for making the time to talk to us at Audio Technology Magazine and AV Magazine.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. So I know that you're on an APAC tour, and I gather that you've visited Japan and Korea and other markets. Are there still regional market differences, like appreciable market differences, or are they all but disappearing? Like when you come to Australia now, have you noticed things that are different?
Now, of course, certain things are specific to certain markets, and specifically I would say the Central Asian markets have their own rules and perceptions. But on the other side, we see globally more and more the markets coming together, more similar products, more similar production methods. And as a result as well, we're undergoing the same changes in the industry like everybody else as well. So not so much differences anymore.
And I guess it's one of your first times out after COVID.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm actually in APAC after COVID, and that's why I'm trying to get the most out of these visits and really spend time with the customers, spend time with our teams, being in the markets. And we all went through some tough times personally and as teams, and not being able to interact in a physical way. So I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, reconnecting. So what was some of the big, I guess, changes or reappraisals or refocuses that came out of COVID for Sennheiser?
Obviously, like everybody else, we had to face the new realities, and that meant that we couldn't meet in person so much. It led to some businesses like the live audio business and also the theater business going down for a while. At the same time, we saw other businesses like the studio business, home studio business, audio for video, all the content producing businesses go up significantly. So that was somewhat compensating, and it was a surprise to everybody to what extent it actually did.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, could you predict?
No.
No, is the short answer. Because there was a time when COVID struck where you could literally not buy a USB microphone, for example.
Yeah.
And I know that's just one little example, but some of the forces and demand must have amazed you.
It didn't completely change the market because some of those trends were already ongoing, but it accelerated it. Where 10 years ago, content production was a very professional thing, which you had a full team for. Today, everybody is a content producer, and that was hugely accelerated. And I think a lot of also the musicians or artists that couldn't go on tour, or people who were usually out in professional productions, they now stream from home and use the time to create new productions.
And at that time, VC, like Teams and Zoom, were pretty much the preserve of business, bigger business. And now, within a space of a week, everybody was on VC, including everybody's grandparents.
Absolutely.
And it was maybe a little bit sort of horrific audio-wise in those days. Like, was when you were sort of on those calls and you were hearing, including on national TV with people taking Zoom calls, like, what was going through your head as head of Sennheiser about, audio and VC?
It's interesting to see how it is good enough to get the conversation across, but I think to really create a connection, the audio quality has to be better. And very often I was thinking, okay, it doesn't take a lot to improve the audio quality here. And as others are starting to upgrade, then everybody saw how it could be better, and people started asking and sharing what it was success stories. And yes, we saw a significant upgrade in audio equipment on one side and democratization in content production on the other side.
And what did it do for, I guess, that hybrid space and meeting rooms, and you had obviously product in that space. What was the upshot of COVID for you and those sort of larger AV products?
I think before it was always a discussion whether we are have virtual meetings or presence meeting. And today we know, even after COVID, we will have hybrid meetings all the time. So it's always somebody calling in, and that requires, especially when it's long meetings, it requires higher quality audio, because otherwise you have fatigue, you have misunderstandings. In business, when you're negotiating, misunderstandings can lead to a lot of difficulties down the road. And when you're in a call for like 6 hours, you better have good quality audio, because otherwise you're so tired after that. So we see products like Team Connect Sealing to be extremely successful in that space. But also our intelligent speaker, which is a conferencing device, ISP, which really have a lot of uptake. Leading people to better understanding and better interaction.
Where's Team Connect headed? It's been in the market, I guess, a while, and obviously you guys are developing software, pretty powerful software. And like, where do you think audio in the conference rooms are headed?
So first of all, Sennheiser is system agnostic. So we believe in open systems. We believe that we should play with everyone who wants to play with us. And as a result, the applications that people build up using our products like Team Connect are so manifold. It's amazing what people come up with. Applications that we never intended for. And so we see new markets grow from there. At the same time, we also see that Team Connect Sealing today is very much for larger applications, larger meeting rooms, and people want to have smaller meeting rooms as well, huddle rooms or medium-sized rooms. And obviously, the whole industry is going that way, and we are producing smaller versions of that, and also expanding our portfolio into allowing more people to get the benefit of the automatic beamforming that Team Connect allows you to really follow around and get crisp audio and cancelling out the unwanted audio.
Yeah, it's such a good system now, and there obviously are competitors that are doing it in slightly different ways, and like in bars at the front of the room, and the results are often astonishingly good. But like, where can it go from here? Does AI come into it? Is there, like, how do you make these systems smarter in the future?
It's specifically when we work with other manufacturers from the industry to build solutions that are going beyond. So we, for example, there is an interface, so you can use the positional data from Team Connect Sealing to steer, for example, the camera, to zoom into the person who is speaking. So we believe that all these added functionality, added intelligence in the system, allowing the metadata to be used, will produce better and as a result, much nicer meeting experiences.
Team Connect's like an interesting example because it's so smart, and it's not something that, for example, IT companies can do. But as every year goes by, do you feel that your market's being more and more impinged by IT? Like, for example, when will Logitech have an amazing sealing speaker, sealing mic, and and you're just Sennheiser, the provider of another endpoint? Like, where's the future, do you think?
We believe that we focus really on the interface. So the humans are analog. That's not a surprise. And we are on both sides on the interfaces. So on the pickup, then it has to become very quickly digital. And as a result, the products have to be addressable. In the future, there will be IP addressable. Every microphone will have an IP address one day. So it's not a question if that's coming, but only when and what the application is. And that opens more new opportunities, in my opinion, than as a threat, because I believe good audio, a good interface from the analog sound world to the digital world is where we are really strong, at the crossroads of the analog world and the digital world.
So can you tell me a little bit more about, how digital and software is like, this frontier that is changing your company?
Well, if we look at a product like TCC2, it is already largely a software product. It has capsules, but then the rest of it is already computer. And so we have today significantly more software engineers than traditional engineers. We're hiring now that we're focusing as a company more on Pro Audio, Biscom, and Neumann, the three divisions. We sold the consumer business, obviously. So now we are hiring next year more than 100 engineers, and those are largely software engineers, because today every product is an IT product.
Just to pick up on that, I guess a direct question, why did you sell the consumer division?
Because we looked strategically at all four business units that we had at the time, Pro Audio, Neumann, Biscom, and the consumer division. And we developed strategies for each of them, realizing that there are great opportunities in all four business units. And then the next step is to think, okay, so how can we exploit those strategies? How can we really drive those strategies and bring them to fruition? Being a family-owned company, being privately owned with the resources and also the specific workforce that we have, very engineering-minded, very scientific. And we saw that the consumer business, and especially the end consumer, is better served by a different owner. So we also saw that we had limited resources focusing on the businesses that we were driving in the Pro Audio and Neumann and Biscom business. So as a result, we think it is better to focus and be even better in the solutions that we bring to market in those focused fields.
That's good for audio people, but I guess, have you any regrets?
No, absolutely not. It was a difficult decision. I'm going to be honest about that. The consumer business bears my family name. It was Sennheiser who invented the music headphone, the HD414, in 1968. We were the specialists in that field. But today, it's not a specialist's market anymore. Other rules apply. It's a huge market. It has literally exploded. And we believe that we're better in niche markets where there's a very clear benefit for the customer. The customer is seeing the USP of our products, hand-built, German-built, German engineering. And as a result, the consumer business is better served in a different way. It was a difficult decision, but I see the result already on the Pro side being very positive.
In what way? Like how is it improving Pro?
Well, we see that coming out of the pandemic, the Pro business is growing again significantly, and we as a company are growing significantly. We have a lot of control over our supply chain. That has been a winner this year, where supply disruption were happening everywhere. We didn't have a major disruption because we produce everything ourselves, and we have a very deep understanding of the different components. So that was a strategic decision already several years ago, and we're now seeing the fruits of that.
Yeah, cool. Did you have to retool for the shortage of components?
Oh yeah, that's a constant over the past 3 years actually. We see that going slightly away now, but yes, a significant part of our R&D workforce was using their skills to design new components that were available. But as a result, we didn't have any major disruptions.
Speaking of hand-built and designed in Germany, like you bought Neumann some years ago, and clearly, you run it as pretty much as a separate entity. I guess I wanted to just sort of pick your brain a little bit about the difference in the DNA. For example, with the NGH20s, which came out a few years ago, I think was a pleasant surprise for people. Maybe they didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And they're a really interesting headphone, like amazing headphones, but clearly very different to a Sennheiser headphone. Like, using that kind of as an example, can you pick apart, I guess, the differences in DNA?
Yeah, I think Neumann is very much a heritage brand, which doesn't mean that it's not innovative. I mean, we launched under Neumann the first digital microphones at the time, which were probably ahead of their time.
Solution D.
Yeah, exactly. But it's and now finally the market is ready for it with digital interfaces and so on. So Neumann really explores the innovation, but brings it in a very classic way to the market. Now with MCM, the new microcapsules, a true music capsule as well that has a Neumann signature sound, absolutely the reference in the studio, but very much based on recording and the studio. Whereas with Sennheiser, we have a DNA which is also a lot in the broadcasting field, in the field of the music industry, probably a bit more rugged as well. So if I look at an MKH, for example, that is sitting outside on a ski slope for 2 weeks and it's working at minus 30 degrees, minus 20 degrees, something like that. You couldn't do that with a Neumann, which is stored in a humidity-controlled cabinet. And so there are different applications, different users, different signature sounds as well to both brands. And that's why we keep it apart. We have the people that own, a lot of people that own both for different applications, and they choose the best tool for their production.
When you're in the office, can you tell a Neumann staff member just by looking at them? Are they a different breed?
They're definitely a different breed, but I wouldn't be able to look at them like that. I mean, with such a diverse workforce, I don't think that you can see it this way.
You pioneered, or you went quite hard with 3D audio and
Yes.
And Ambio, and you went there when others didn't. Like, where are we at currently with immersive and 3D audio?
So our mission is to build the future of audio, and we've done that since 1945 for Sennheiser and since 1928 for Neumann. So if you always try to look ahead, create new innovation, you need to be ahead of the curve. We did a lot of research in the field of spatial audio, 3D audio, and already in the 70s we brought out the dummy head recording, Neumann and Sennheiser both, by the way. So while, for example, the Beatles were still recording Sgt. Pepper's at Abbey Road in mono, people like Pink Floyd were already recording in binaural 3D audio. It wasn't a big success because the market was not asking for it yet. But now with the rise of virtual reality, 3D audio, metaverse on one side, but also the consumer is looking for more and more 3D audio because it's just a more natural hearing. It's instead of listening to channels, you're actually listening to sound objects in space, and that's how our human brain, how our human hearing works as well. So it feels more natural, and therefore we have always believed it will one day come. As a privately owned company, we can also afford to believe in it and keep on going on it.
That's an advantage of being privately owned business, isn't it? You can have some passion projects, I guess, and that's true of this area, I guess.
And it's very much ingrained in our curiosity DNA. We are always challenging the status quo. My grandfather, Fritz, who founded the company, was a scientist. He was not an entrepreneur initially. And that scientific approach to everything we do is still there. We do a lot of research which doesn't have an immediate application, but we understand better audio this way. We understand material, we understand processes. And as a result, that intense science work leads to a more intense audio solution, which in the end leads to more intense emotions, because that's what audio is all about.
So Atmos Music is starting to lift off, I guess. Do you look at that development with interest? Is that does Sennheiser, benefit from that particularly, or in any way, do you think?
I think we do benefit from it because we have a lot of research in that field. We have recording, Ambio recording standards, for example. We have with Dear Reality a wonderful software that allows you to create content in space, 3D content. But also, for example, with the Dolby Atmos being a standard in a lot of, for example, Netflix productions, we created an algorithm that is using that and creating a binaural signal, because most people, or stereo signal out of that, which is much more spatialized than a standard stereo signal. So in the new Netflix productions, in most of them, you'll have the Sennheiser enhanced stereo, because most people listen on traditional stereo devices.
Right.
So if you compare, for example, the season 4 Stranger Things to season 3 Stranger Things, you really hear the difference.
And how much do you know about Apple's version of the binaural fold down, as it were? Like, is yours better?
We don't know exactly where they're going. We know a lot of our former employees went there, so some of the knowledge obviously also went there, but they did obviously do their own research as well. We really very much focus on the user application. We focus on creating a very specific application that creates a more natural hearing environment, whether it's on the recording side or on the playback side. And as a result, we believe that our technology is very advanced in that field, and we look forward to the whole industry moving towards that, because that's better for everybody.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's. I guess you spend quite a bit of time thinking about where VR and metaverse is going. Is there, and you must talk to a lot of other industry leaders at that level. Is the future going to be amazing?
Absolutely. We're usually, with so advanced products, we're bringing out prototypes and discuss them with the industry under NDA. So one example is our virtual reality mic. We have an example here where we never intended to make a product out of it. We wanted to discuss it with the industry. And then Facebook came along and said, okay, this is the standard for VR production. So we immediately had to scramble and make a product out of it. Team Connect Ceiling 1 was also just a prototype, which we sold to some leading customers initially. So Team Connect Ceiling 2 then is a real product coming out of that. So this co-creation with our industry partners, with our application specialists, is something which we have done since the beginning of the company, because the first wireless microphone system was developed together with German TV in 1958. So we have this long-standing customer focus, really bringing our technology and letting the customer understand what the application really is.
Fantastic. So I'm sort of reaching kind of towards the end of my time with you, Daniel, but one thing, this is not a serious question, but how common is the name Sennheiser as a surname where you're from?
Not at all. I'm not aware of anybody else with that surname except our family. There are similar names in Switzerland around Sennhauser, Sennheiser, but Sennheiser, we're actually not aware of anybody else, except for some fake accounts on social networks. But
so you never really stood a chance. You had to really join the family business. Like, was when you were working at Procter & Gamble, for example, they would say, Daniel Sennheiser. Sennheiser, that's an interesting name. You don't happen to be related to...
Yeah, that didn't really happen a lot. Okay. I was always very much the rebel, I would say, in the family. I said I wanted to have nothing to do with the family business. It took me a while to understand that. My brother Andreas, with whom I'm running the company now, was very clear since the beginning. He studied engineering and did a PhD in logistics. Me more on the marketing and sales design side. I think it was interesting to see us come together more or less at the same time, being ready for the company when the company needed us, and I think we were able to add quite a lot to the strategy of the company, taking it over to the third generation.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's quite unique, and I guess we're safe in saying you're not likely to sell the business anytime soon.
Oh, no. No, we're focused on that because we believe there's great future, and the market is proving right now that we bet on the right horse. So we're very confident that we can bring out lots of new products in the next years, invest heavily in our production. We're tripling our capacity in Romania right now. We're heavily investing in our production in Germany. We're investing heavily into new R&D. So we're looking forward to shaping the future of audio in that field as well.
That's great, and this is where I've put you on the spot, where you tell me a product scoop, and we can leave and be friends. So, is there a product scoop you'd like to give me of a new release that you might be able to foreshadow? Anything new happening?
But Christmas is coming along, and you know what? We all love surprises at Christmas. So I wouldn't want to reveal anything before the market.
About right. So something before Christmas. Yeah, great. Well, thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.